If you chow down on donuts or big out on pastries, you're probably at least somewhat aware of the health consequences. But foods that might seem good for you could be just as harmful. The new documentary, Fed Up, aims to pull back the curtain on the food industry. WGBH News arts editor Jared Bowen has more.
The dish served in Fed Up, a riveting new documentary, is that the food industry is largely culpable for America's obesity epidemic.
Sugar is poison. It is a chronic, not acute, chronic, dose-dependent, depends on how much you eat, because there is a safe threshold, hepato-liver toxin.
The film is co-produced by Katie Couric and Lori David, who also helmed the Oscar-winning climate change documentary, An Inconvenient Truth.
Why did this movie need to be made?
Oh, my gosh. Well, I think we're coming out of 30 years of a food fog, and everyone's getting sick. Everyone's getting sick. 1 in 3 kids in America are overweight or obese. Diabetes statistics are off the charts. And we're heading to we're in the biggest public health crisis we've ever been in, and we're not doing that much about it.
Fed Up charts the ballooning of the obesity epidemic over the last 30 years, when the food industry began marketing so-called healthier, low-fat versions of processed foods, products that mask off-the-charts sugar content.
The food industry has bamboozled and hoodwinked us into thinking that there are healthier alternatives. Junk is still junk, even if it's less junky.
You don't know you're eating too much sugar if you're buying salad dressing from the grocery store or spaghetti sauce, and there's 56 different names for sugar.
The film suggests that the food industry today is the big tobacco of yesterday. The parallels are plentiful, David says.
The way they're marketing to kids is one way. There's some footage in this movie that I'd never seen before. You might be too young to remember the Flintstones. Their main advertiser used to be Winston. It was a cigarette company. And now you see the Flintstones advertising sugary cereals. I think a lot of the food companies were actually purchased by tobacco companies as well.
The solution, David says, is knowing precisely what we're eating, not what we're told we're eating. This is not, she says, a problem we can exercise our way out of.
It's not physically possible. If you think that if you drink 1 soda a day, right, to just burn off that 1 soda, you'd have to run for an hour and 15 minutes, say. Like, that's just one thing you're consuming during the day. There's not enough hours to do it.
Well, Emily, I read all of Michael Pollan's books, who's written so much about the food industry. I read so much about this, and I saw this documentary and realized how much I don't know. And I think you probably know that you're a smarty pants.
I am.
Because you lecture us all about making our own salad dressing.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, if you go to this film, there's so much you're going to learn about the power of the food industry and the power of that lobby because of the money they have behind it for what they've done to the American public over the last 30 years. I should preface this all by saying that this is a documentary, so it's one point of view, but it's hard to refute all of what you're ingesting here.
Is it a science lesson, or do they take on the food industry kind of like Michael Moore did with Super Size Me?
It's less sensational than Michael Moore, which is actually a really good thing, I think, because I think that could turn off people. But this movie is framed so well because the entry point is kids, obese kids in America, and then you go to their homes, these cameras go to their homes, and you see the parents saying, but we're doing the right thing. We can't understand why our daughter is overweight, not losing anything, because we're serving her the reduced fat cookies or the sugar-free, or not the sugar-free, but the reduced fat this, the non-that. And these families think that this is all they need to do to have their children lose weight.
All right, let's bring Louisa Kasdan into the discussion. She's the founder of Let's Talk About Food, a nonprofit aimed at increasing our awareness of all aspects of the food. Well, you've also seen the film, Louisa, and I mean, is this the fact that the food industry is so powerful? And actually, it's almost like they got people on a cycle. They're addicted to this. So, I mean, how is that going to change? Is it going to have to be a congressional thing?
How is it going to change? That's the $10 billion question. I mean, there are small changes, there are large changes. I think the hardest thing about the movie to watch, and I was telling Jared, I watched an earlier cut, and the earlier cut left me completely depressed because it ended with all of these kids in the movie who'd been making some progress falling back off the track. And the new cut, that is true, but there's a call to action, and there are some successes. And I think that if I took one clear message out of the movie, one thing that people can do, it's really look at sugar. I mean, sugar is insidious, and we can tune back. You know, they've done this in Britain with salt. They're going to do it with sugar. We can tune back the natural recipe for that much sugar in processed foods.
Okay, but as I understand it, in processed foods, the FDA doesn't require that you put the amount of sugar that's in a product.
No, but they could.
Yeah, exactly.
They could.
Then you'll be able to read it.
It's the only label. If you look at your food labels, your nutrition guidelines, you'll find that sugar is the only thing where you don't see the percentage in your food. And what happened, as this film explained, is over the last 30 years, when suddenly there was this revelation that fat was bad for you. So they took fat out of foods. Right. But in order for the food to still taste good, they added in all the sugar. And now it's masked with all of these different names, and they all end in oses. But it's, you know, high fructose corn syrup and all of these other things. So you don't know what you're ingesting, and that's the problem with all of these families.
One thing I thought was interesting is that if you looked at the parents of these children, they also were obese. I mean, it isn't just that it's ballooned up in these children out of nowhere. I mean, we have a good, I mean, I always say to people I'm very optimistic because we've really screwed up the food system for a couple of decades. But we have screwed it up for a couple of decades. We can turn it around in a couple of decades. But I think that part of the problem with the system is it isn't just changing the kids' behavior, it's back at the family level and the cooking level.
And a lot of people don't cook.
A lot of
people
don't
buy these processed foods, or
right.
they think if they go to Trader Joe's, no offense to Trader Joe's, love the place, but that's processed food like everything else, and it's all, everything has sugar in it.
And to Louise's point, this film acknowledges that this has been a problem that people have been aware of for 30 years, and partially they haven't dealt with it because of the lobby, and they can't get people to address it. But in the film, Katie Couric asks President Bill Clinton, who was presiding during the period in which this was becoming a major issue, and he basically admits in the film that he missed it, that he lost this. But here's some of what he had to say in the film.
Why aren't they doing more?
I can't answer that, particularly since corn has been turned into fructose and is a sweetener for soft drinks, which I don't think is a good use of corn. But I think that America is still insufficiently alert to the damage we are doing long-term to our collective health.
And that's partly, too, because the conversation, as this film illustrates, has been shifted, and they even use Michelle Obama as an example. I mean,
they go after her.
She's sort of a sacred cow. She has her Let's Move campaign, but the film illustrates how she started this campaign as eating better. And she had that White House garden, the vegetable garden, and the food industry partnered up with her, providing money, and the conversation then, Michael Pollan argues, shifted away from eating well to exercise, which, as we pointed out with Laurie David, exercise isn't the solution at this point because there's no way you could possibly exercise off all the sugar.
I mean, I think the exercise solution is one of the important takeaways of the film. But I want to say something about Laurie David and Michelle Obama, because we asked her the same question. We met with her after Jared did, and she said, listen, you have to look at the realities of it. Michelle Obama is going to be around for a long time. She will be a far more ardent voice for some of these issues in the food system when she's out of the White House.
Yeah, okay, but she started somewhere. You got to give her credit. This is a really good, thing to grasp onto.
Yeah, it's not to discredit.
It's just saying that she may be off on the wrong track because exercise isn't the thing, but although she started with the food.
She's not off on the wrong track. That's not how I would characterize it. What would you say?
Well, I think the same way that you see one of the most chilling parts of the film is the impact in schools. So not only has the food industry partnered at the highest levels with Michelle Obama to shift the conversation, but they've also gone into schools. And what is the number? About 80% of school districts in the United States are partnered with Pepsi and Coca-Cola, who own all the fast food chains. So here every day you have kids that are going to eat these pizza slices.
All right. Jared Bowen, Louisa Kasdan, thanks so much.